Hi everyone, welcome back. In the last lesson, we looked at the 14 different question types that you will face during the IELTS academic reading exam. We also briefly talked about how speed reading will help you find your answers faster, and that's exactly what we're going to cover today. Skimming and scanning are speed reading techniques that are very essential for the IELTS reading exam. Let's look at what these strategies mean in more detail, shall we? When you're skimming, you're basically reading quickly to get a general idea of the passage. If you think about it, we actually use these techniques on a daily basis. For example, when we read the newspaper, an email, or a text message. When we don't have the time to read something in detail, we quickly read through it, and again, that's skimming. When it comes to scanning, you're reading quickly to find the specific details. As you only have 1 hour to complete the whole section, it's not practical to read each passage word for word. Therefore, you will need to skim and scan in order to find your answers faster, and that's why these techniques are important. In fact, you're not only using these techniques for the passage, you're also using them whilst going through the question. Now let's look at which question types best benefit from these techniques. If you would like to refresh your memory on the different types of questions in the IELTS reading section, you can check out the previous lesson. So question types like true, false, not given, matching paragraph questions, summary and sentence completion, multiple choice, list selection, and table completion are all question types where you will have to skim and scan for information in order to complete the questions quicker. In terms of skimming techniques, there are some ways to do so. First of all, you can look at the title, headings, and topic sentences of the passages. These, especially the title, give you a summarized version of the whole passage. Next, you can read the first and/or last sentence of the paragraph. This also acts as a paragraph summary. You can use this particularly whilst doing questions like matching. Now let's look at the sample passage on the next slide and use skimming techniques we just talked about. First of all, let's look at the title, as that's a big giveaway as to what the passage will be about. As we can see, the title for the passage is The Motor Car. So this tells us that the passage will be about just that. We could also go further and think that maybe the passage could be about the history of motor cars or even the evolution of it. Use your prediction skills here to figure out what the passage is all about as well. This is another skill that you can develop in order to help you during your IELTS exam. Next, let's read the first and last sentence of the first paragraph. There are over 700 million motor vehicles in the world, and the number is rising by more than 40 million each year. This dependence on motor vehicles has given rise to major problems, including environmental pollution, depletion of oil resources, traffic congestion, and safety. So here, we can summarize paragraph A by saying it's about the problems the increase in motor cars on the roads are causing. You can try doing the same for the rest of the paragraphs. Now, let's move on to scanning techniques. The first thing you can do is look out for keywords. But before we get into that, let's take a step back for a minute. I mentioned earlier that these techniques are also used while going through the questions. You might be thinking, how, right? So, when you're going through the paper, it's advised that you read the questions first before going through the passage. Now you will also glance through and get an idea of what you have to find in the passage. There may be many keywords that are repeated, so you'll have to know, understand, and correlate the keywords found in the question and in the passage. What counts as keywords? You can look out for dates, numbers, proper nouns, or timings. And to scan, you can do so by glancing through with your eyes, or better yet, follow the test with a pencil or finger. You can also circle and underline the keywords. Let's try a scanning exercise. You can take a minute to read through paragraph A and note down what you feel are important keywords. I will then read it out and underline the keywords. There are now over 7 million motor vehicles in the world, and the number is rising by more than 40 million each year. The average distance driven by car users is growing too, from 8 kilometers a day per person in Western Europe in 1965 to 25 kilometers a day in 1995. This dependence on motor vehicles has given rise to major problems, including environmental pollution, depletion of oil resources, traffic congestion, and safety. Now let's try it with the questions. We're going to look at a sample question for this passage. Let's have a look at the instructions first. This reading passage has 8 paragraphs, A through H. Which paragraphs concentrate on the following information? Write the appropriate letters A through H for numbers 1 to 6. Note, write 1 letter for each answer. So, this question type is matching paragraphs. Now let's look at the questions. Here, feel free to make notes on the keywords. Number 1, a comparison of past and present transportation methods. Number 2, how driving habits contribute to road problems. Number 3, the relative merits of cars and public transport. Number 4, the writer's own predictions of the future solutions. Number 5, the increasing use of motor vehicles. And number 6, the impact of the car on city development. Now, since we're focusing on paragraph A, I'll just skip down to the question related to that, which is question number 5. As you can see, I've highlighted the keywords which I felt were important: increasing and motor vehicle. The first line in the paragraph says, there are now over 700 million motor vehicles in the world, and the number is rising by more than 40 million each year. Here, the number is rising by 40 million each year equals the increasing use of motor vehicles. This has been paraphrased, and I'm glad this came up because this is the next technique that we'll be looking at in the next lesson. Before we move on to that though, I hope you were able to see how when we use these speed reading techniques, we were able to find the answers faster. You can go ahead and try matching the rest of the paragraphs. Alright, we've come to the end of the lesson. Let's do a quick recap. In this lesson, we looked at 2 speed reading techniques, skimming and scanning, and the importance of them. We also understood what to look out for when we're skimming and scanning. Do practice these techniques when you're preparing, and I'm sure that it'll help you save time during the exam. See you for the next lesson, where we'll be looking at how to identify paraphrases in the IELTS academic reading exam.